Fashion fellas, welcome to my channel. Today we are going on an exciting journey through the last 100 years of men's fashion. A century filled with styles that tell stories and reflect who we are. Ever wondered why your grandfather wore suspenders while you rock joggers? Or how disco balls turned into streetwear? Stick around because we are about to explore the highs, the lows, and even the questionable choices of men's style through the decades. Without further ado, let's get started.
Get it? Text a message, I don't know the number. Flexing on these niggas, every bone and muscle.
1920s, the age of the gentleman. The 1920s were all about formality and sophistication. Picture a classic scene from The Great Gatsby. That's the 1920s in a nutshell. Men were dressed to impress and suits were the name of the game. We are talking three-piece suits with matching trousers, vests and jackets. It was all about looking sharp and classy, whether you were going to work or out for a night on the town. Accessories were also a big deal. Men wear fedoras and sometimes carried pocket watches. Think old school cool. Plus suspenders were in, which, fun fact, are not just something you see at a vintage themed wedding these days. Overall, the look was polished and everyone wanted to appear as a real gentleman. But don't be fooled, those suits could get pretty heavy, especially in summer. As we moved into the 1930s, men's fashion started to loosen up, literally. The suits were still very much present, but they got a little more comfortable. This was partly because the Great Depression changed how people approached clothing. Fabrics became more affordable, and instead of three-piece suits, two-piece suits started to gain popularity. Trousers became wider and you'd often see men wearing pleated pants. This relaxed look made it more practical, but it still kept the sense of class. Hats were still everywhere. If you were a man without a hat, you were like a phone without Wi-Fi today, incomplete. And believe it or not, double-breasted jackets became a thing during this decade, adding a bit of flair to the otherwise conservative look. Let's move on to the 1940s. The war and the workwear. The 1940s were a decade of great change, largely influenced by World War II. Men's fashion became more utilitarian, focusing on practicality rather than luxury. With fabric rationing in effect, suits became simpler. No more extra fabric for those white pants or fancy cuffs. It was all about functionality. Military uniforms were a big influence too. Bomber jackets, trench coats, and high-waisted trousers became common even for civilians. Men started to adopt more rugged styles with an emphasis on workwear, as many were either in the military or working in factories. The hat game was still going strong, but this time it was the fedora and the newsboy cap that took center stage. It was all about keeping it simple but effective. Now comes the fun part, the 1950s. After the war, men were ready for something new, something different. This decade saw the rise of two distinct styles: the classic gentleman look and the rebellious bad boy vibe. If you've ever seen Grease, you know what I'm talking about. On one side you had men in classic suits with clean lines and a more tailored fit, very much inspired by Hollywood icons like Cary Grant. On the other side you had the James Dean types: white t-shirts, leather jackets and jeans. It was the birth of the cool guy look, which still influences fashion today. Leather jackets became the ultimate symbol of rebellion. And honestly, who doesn't feel just a bit cooler putting one on? Let's move on to the 1960s, mod versus hippie. The 1960s brought about some of the most diverse styles yet. Men's fashion was split between two major movements: the mod style and the hippie style. The mods were all about sleek suits, skinny ties and Chelsea boots, a sharp and polished look. Think of the Beatles in their early days. On the other hand, the hippie movement brought in a wave of relaxed bohemian clothing. Bell-bottom jeans, colorful shirts, and loose-fitting garments were the go-to. Patterns were bold and colors were bright. People weren't afraid to stand out. Men started growing their hair longer, embracing a more laid-back and expressive look. It was the era of peace, love, and fashion freedom. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this video so far, hit that like button and subscribe subscribe for more cool men's fashion tips. You can get all the outfits I present daily on Instagram or TikTok by downloading the free LTK app and following me there. Let's move on to the 1970s, disco fever. The 1970s were all about self-expression and having fun with fashion. This was the disco era. Think white lapels, flared trousers and shiny fabrics. Men's suits got a lot flashier with bright colors and bold patterns. It wasn't uncommon to see men in velvet suits or even sequins. Shirts had massive collars and leaving a few buttons undone was the norm. Gotta show off that chest hair, right? The 70s were definitely about being bold and not taking fashion too seriously. Whether you were dancing at a disco or just hanging out, the motto was to stand out and shine. Let's move on to the 1980s, the power suit and street style. The 1980s saw two major trends: the rise of the power suit and the birth of street style. The power suit was all about showing status. Big shoulders, double-breasted jackets, and flashy ties were staples for businessmen. It was all about looking confident and powerful. The influence of shows like Miami Vice brought pastel colors into these suits, giving them a distinct 80s twist. Meanwhile, hip-hop culture was starting to grow, and with it came the beginnings of streetwear. Tracksuits, sneakers, and gold chains became popular thanks to artists like Run DMC. The contrast between the corporate power suit and the relaxed urban streetwear made the 80s one of the most diverse fashion decades. Let's move on to the 90s, the era of casual and comfortable. The 90s were a time when everything became more laid back. Men's fashion took a major turn toward casual comfort. Baggy jeans, oversized shirts, and flannel were everywhere. Grunge music, led by bands like Nirvana, made ripped jeans and plaid shirts a must-have for any young guy. It was all about looking effortlessly cool without trying too hard. On the other side, hip-hop fashion continued to evolve. Baggy clothes, hoodies, and Timberland boots became a staple. Streetwear brands like Fubu and Tommy Hilfiger became mainstream, and everyone wanted that relaxed but stylish vibe. The 90s were all about rejecting the polished looks in the past and embracing a more authentic, comfortable style. Let's move on to the 2000s, the era of experimentation. The 2000s were a bit of a mixed bag. Men's fashion was influenced by everything from pop culture to technology. Denim was king. Denim jackets, denim jeans, and even double denim. Remember Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears? Low-rise jeans, cargo pants, and graphic tees were everywhere. Suits also got a bit strange during this time. Think boxy fits and lots of shiny fabrics. The early 2000s were not exactly the peak of men's suit fashion, but they were definitely memorable. This decade also saw the rise of athleisure, with guys wearing tracksuits not just for the gym, but everywhere. Comfort was key, but sometimes it came at the cost of style. Moving into the 2010s, we saw a major shift towards streetwear. Brands like Supreme or Off-White went from niche to mainstream, and sneakers became a statement piece. Guys were collecting Jordans like they were works of art. Hoodies, joggers, and logo-heavy clothing were everywhere, and the line between high fashion and street style began to blur. At the same time, the slim fit trend took over. Slim fit suits, slim fit jeans, and even slim fit t-shirts. Everything was about a more tailored, fitted look. Men were moving away from the baggy clothes of the 90s and 2000s, opting instead for something that showed off their silhouette. It was all about looking put together but still relaxed, a mix of effort and ease. Finally, here we are in the 2020s. Men's fashion today is a mix of everything that came before, and personal style is more important than ever. You've got people rocking retro looks from the 80s and 90s, while others are embracing modern minimalism. Streetwear is still a major influence, but so is sustainability. Thrifting and second-hand clothing have become popular choices. Tailored suits are also making a comeback, but with a twist. think relaxed fits and unique fabrics. Athleisure is bigger than ever, and brands are constantly mixing comfort with style. It's an exciting time for men's fashion because there really aren't any rules. Whether you want to dress up or down, everything goes, and it's all about expressing who you are. Fashion fellas, there you have it. Thanks for joining me on this journey through 100 years of men's fashion. It's amazing to see how each decade shaped not just the clothes, but the identity and culture of men everywhere. Remember, fashion isn't just about what you wear. It's a reflection of who you are, where you've been, and what you stand for. If you enjoyed this video so far, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which decade style is your favorite one. My name is Omari. I wish you all the best. Until next time, peace.
Get it? Text a message, I don't know the number. Flexing on